There's only a couple days left in 2023, and I thought what better time to do a yearly recap video. So today what I'm gonna do is go over my favorites in a few different categories. We're gonna talk about my favorite plugins, we're gonna talk about some of my favorite releases of the year, we're gonna talk about some cool things that I got to do this year, and then at the end of the video, I wanna tell you 5 of my goals that I'm carrying into 2024. So we're gonna jump into that in 1 second, but before we do, my name's Austin, you're watching Make Pop Music. We have weekly tutorials on music and music production, so make sure that you subscribe because we have a ton of stuff coming out in 2024. Other than that, we are still running our holiday sale, so if you go over to makepopmusic.com, you can save 25% off of all of our products, including our start to finish production course from now until the end of December 31st, so go check that out. But let's dive in so I can talk about my 2023 favorites. The first category that I want to talk about is my favorite plugins of the year, so we're going to dive right in. The first one that is really new, but is really fastly approaching to be one of my favorite plugins ever is Life by XLN Audio. So this actually comes with an app that you can download on your phone where I can basically start the app, record a bunch of stuff like a voice memo, and then it sends it to this plugin and it will chop it to create all of these really cool percussion loops. So this is just me banging stuff around my studio and it spits out a bunch of loops like this. There's a ton of customization. They also have really cool randomization features, and then you can always edit these and export all of these as MIDI files, as audio files. You can split them by like different multi-tracks and stems. This is a must-have plugin if you're looking for something to get before the year is up. I bought this with my own money, but Life by XLN Audio is absolutely incredible. The next plugin that I want to talk about is Lander Mastering. I actually made a whole video on this, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but I have been using this so often over the past couple months, basically just to finish up my tracks and master them. I find that the way that it opens up my tracks, it handles my mids, and it gets everything to be loud and present without being harsh. It's just really nice. So I'm using this at the end of pretty much all of my mixes. If you haven't tried the Lander Mastering plugin, I highly suggest it. The next one that I want to talk about is Transit by Baby Audio. This is basically a multi-effects unit that just has tons of automation parameters. You have a mix knob down here. You can load this up with tons of different modules. And to me, this is just such a good way to add sauce to melodies, add space and movement to different drum loops. I use this in pretty much every mix that I do in some way or another. Here's what it's working with on this kind of like ARP synth I have. Without it, it's a perfect plugin just to add a little bit of sauce and movement. So if you're a fan of multi-effects units, you have to check out Transit by Baby Audio. Andrew Huang knocked it out of the park with that one. The next plugin that I want to talk about is the LOL Comp, also called LOL Comp. This is by Mixing Night Audio. It's a company that Ken Lewis heads. Big fans of their channel. They're friends of our channel. So if you haven't checked out any of their Mixing Night stuff, this and Greenhouse, both incredible, have some of my favorite GUIs that I've ever seen. They're so fun. It's essentially a few different chains that Ken uses on a bunch of his mixes. So you have like a smiley face, you have this kind of like panda bear, you have this really punchy kangaroo, you have the peacock, which I use for vocals, and then you have this dragon that has a ton of saturation. And you can obviously use this as any kind of compression knob. All of these have different attacks and ratios and things like that. You can set your threshold over here. And then there is a whole parallel section down here that you have filters, you have like some different kind of like EQs and saturation, you have like a reverb, you have your mix knob. This to me is a really cool kind of signature multi-effects unit. And Ken Lewis is such an incredible mixer, so to have some of his chains where you can just pull them up and only operate a couple parameters is such a cool feature to have. And I actually use this on vocals and on drum buses almost every mix. This thing is so sick, and Mixing Night Audio is such a cool company. Go show them some love and go check it out and support them. And then the last plugin that I want to talk about is brand new. This is from our friends over at Help Me Devon. This is their brand new compressor. If you haven't seen, they also have the HMD Rosetta EQ that I've used on this channel now for over a year. I love that thing, and this is also absolutely killer. You have a couple different compression settings over here. You can tighten it, you can make it more aggressive. And the cool thing about this plugin is this GUI right here that actually shows you exactly what this plugin is doing. So if you have a hard time understanding compression, this really kind of paints the picture. You can see your original waveform, you can see the affected waveform, and then this red over here is kind of what the actual compressor is doing. So you can tighten it where it will shorten the attack, you can open it, you can have it aggressive, you can have it smooth. You can make it transparent or hyped. You have light, medium, heavy, and smash. I just find that this gets a lot of really, really good compression work done without you having to basically like reinvent the wheel. So like you can absolutely brick wall it like a limiter. This thing is really, really sick and it is super affordable. Go check that out. And if you don't already subscribe to Help Me Devon's YouTube channel, subscribe to their channel. They have amazing tips and tricks over there as well. Next, I want to talk about 5 of my favorite albums from this year. So these are in no particular order, but there are 5 that really, really stand out. Guts by Olivia Rodrigo to me was such a great sophomore album. I actually like it even more than Sour. So if you haven't listened to Guts or if you've been sleeping on it, go check it out. It's a really, really good kind of post-rock pop album. Super angsty, really, really, really great production. Killer work to everybody who was involved on that project. The next album that I've been obsessed with all year is Super Glue by Joan. I love Joan. We've talked about them on the channel a lot. I actually got to produce 2 of the songs on this record with them, and those guys just know pop to a T. They literally just deliver like indie pop perfection. So if you haven't listened to Super Glue by Joan, go check it out. If you listen to Nervous or Don't Want to Be Your Friend, those are the ones that I got to co-produce with them, but literally everything on that album is so fantastic. It kind of brings back some 2000s, kind of like indie rock, kind of alternative rock, and then mixes that with indie pop. I really, really, really love this album. The next one on my list is actually For All the Dogs by Drake. If you don't know me, I do love Drake. I love hip hop music, and to me, this album was such a cool blend of like R&B feels Drake and just like, you know, courtside at a basketball game turn up Drake. So I like when he kind of delivers both. There are a few really, really standout songs on this project. So if you haven't listened to For All the Dogs and you've been sleeping on newer Drake records, to me, this one delivers everything that I want. It kind of blends like his Take Care vibe with something like Nothing Was the Same. So I really, really enjoyed it. I know that it wasn't a huge, huge hit with everybody, but it made it to my list. The next album is Something to Give Each Other by Troye Sivan. We've talked about Troye on this channel quite a bit too. There are some absolutely killer tracks on this album. How to Stay With You and Got Me Started are probably my 2 favorites, but honestly, this album is really good front to back. Tons of really cool production, really, really great mixing, really, really great vocals. I just think that this is a really good version of a 2023 pop album. And then the last one is The Dark by the band Camino. I love the band Camino. This is another album from them that they've delivered that is just stellar. I know that they worked with Andrew Goldstein on a couple of these songs, who I am a really, really big fan of. And to me, I think that they leaned even a little bit more poppy in terms of like writing and structure, but they still have that kind of alternative indie rock kind of instrumentation. It feels like a band from Nashville. It feels really, really good. If you haven't went and listened to that album, go check it out. It is really, really fire. And I'm glad that Spencer got to sing a little bit more on this album. I really, really enjoy his vocals, and I think that they really, really shine in a few of those songs. The next category that I want to talk about are 5 songs that I really, really enjoyed this year. These are not going to make the albums list. I specifically picked things that we haven't already talked about. Again, in no particular order, the first one that I want to talk about is It Over Now by Taylor Swift. I think that this is probably one of her best, if not the best vault track that she's ever dropped. This to me really feels like a 1989 song was produced in the style of Midnight's, and those are 2 of my favorite albums from her, so I think that this song is honestly like pop perfection. Jack Antonoff crushed it. The next song that I want to talk about is Nevermind by Knox. I am a big, big, big Knox fan. Cam Becker, if you don't watch him, he has a YouTube channel as well where he breaks down some of the Knox productions, and Knox released a new EP this year that was fantastic. The only reason it didn't make my albums is because it was an EP and not an album, but Nevermind to me was like the standout track. I really, really, really enjoyed that one. The next song that I want to talk about is 7 by Jungkook. Honestly, this was to me like the song of the summer. This song was huge. I loved it. I'm glad it kind of brought back some of that like UK garage style. I really, really, really thought that this was a great album, and I'm really enjoying seeing some of the K-pop people carry over and do more westernized music that have vocals in English, because to me it is a good entry point for fans over here in the US to kind of really get inaugurated with what K-pop has been doing for years. The next one that I want to talk about is actually Angel by Pink Panthers, and funny enough, this is actually for the Barbie soundtrack, which was one of my favorite movies of this year. I just think that the movie and the soundtrack are both really, really killer. I really like what Pink Panthers is doing, and to me this song just has such like an angelic but also kind of melancholy vibe. I don't know, if you haven't heard Angel, it's really, really cool, and there's a fiddle solo in it which is like absolutely bananas, so go check that song out if you haven't heard it already. I think that people slept on that one from the Barbie soundtrack. And the last song that I'm gonna put on my list is actually my song, Ruin My Life. If you didn't know, I released a song a few months ago with my good friend Riley. I had a really good time making this song, and if you thought that I wasn't gonna do a little bit of self-promo in this, you're bugging. I love this song. I'm super, super happy with how it came out. If you haven't checked out Ruin My Life, go check it out. It's out on all streaming platforms. I really, really appreciate it. We're gonna do these next categories pretty quick, but the next one that I wanna talk about is 5 personal achievements that I had this year, or just things that I got to do. So number 1, I got to go to Italy for 2 weeks with my wife. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary. Been together 14 years, married for 10. So we went to Italy for 2 weeks, had an amazing time, had so much good food, so much amazing wine. just a beautiful place. If you ever get to go to Italy, I highly recommend it. Just don't go in the summer in July like we did, because it was hot as fuck. The second thing that I want to talk about is we got to throw an amazing community event. We live in Orlando, so we actually started a little nonprofit earlier this year. My wife and I called Creatives of Orlando, and we got to throw kind of a community mixer, and we had like probably 100 to 150 people come out. It was really cool. We got to meet so many amazing people. We had some amazing companies sponsor this event, and we really got to get that off the ground. We want to do a lot more of that in 2024. The third thing is that we actually got to go to the Eras tour. We ended up securing tickets at retail price. We got 6 of them, and me and my wife and 4 of our friends all went to Atlanta for the weekend, saw her. It was nice. It was indoors. It was an amazing show. If you get to go see the Eras tour, I highly recommend it. Even if you're not the biggest Taylor Swift fan, it is just an absolute spectacle, and seeing somebody perform for over 3 hours is just jaw-dropping. It was so good. We had the best time. The fourth thing was that I got to sit courtside at a basketball game for my birthday this year. My wife got me tickets to go see the Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat. Being that I live in Orlando, I am a huge Magic fan, and being that we went to college down in South Florida, I am also a huge Miami Heat fan. So getting to sit courtside and watch Jimmy Butler put up 40 points on the Magic, but the Magic still come over and win, was honestly so much fun. We had the best time going to do that, and if you ever get to go sit courtside at a basketball game, you should do it. It is pricey, but it's a super cool experience, and it's the only time that you really get to see the game that up close. And then the last personal achievement or thing that I did this year was I actually went to the doctor for the first time in like 12 years. I have horrible health anxiety, and with that said, I've just put off going to the doctor for pretty much my entire adult life. I didn't have health insurance when I was first self-employed, and then once I got it, I was honestly always too scared and too nervous to go to the doctor. But earlier this year, I finally went, got all of my checkups, got a clean bill of health. I'm all good, healthy as a horse. So if you have really bad health anxiety, or there are things that you've just been putting off, I know it's really scary, but just go out there, try to get it done. It's probably not going to be as bad as you expect, especially if you have insurance. The next category is 5 things that we got to accomplish either with Make Pop Music or with my own personal business. These are just kind of business related, where the last ones were more personal. But the first one is that NPM hit a massive sales milestone. It's a milestone that basically all companies look forward to when they're started. Some companies never hit it. Some companies hit it super quickly. It took us a little while, but honestly, we got there. I'm not going to share super specific details, but it was really important to us, and we got to accomplish that earlier in November. So thank you guys for all of the support. If you've ever checked out our store and bought something, you are the reason that we hit that milestone we've been looking forward to for years. So we finally did that. Super proud of it, and now we are on to the next. This year, we also got to come out with 4 packs with Make Pop Music. Sometimes we only get to do 2 or 3, but this year we got to release Synergy over in March. We got to release Y2K in like June or July. And then for Black Friday, we got to release Lush and Sweet Tooth. So putting out 4 products in a year was really good for us. Honestly, it's been a great year. If you haven't checked those out, you can go check those out at our website, makepopmusic.com. Again, they are 25% off for the next few days, so go check them out. The next thing is that I got to upgrade my vocal chain. So I actually swapped over to the Loudon Audio Eden earlier this year, and I tested it out and I fell in love with it. I have been using it ever since, and I added an Audioscape 1176 Rev D. So my vocal chain right now is super saucy. I love it. I have the Loudon Audio going into a Heritage Audio HA81A preamp and EQ, and then that goes into my Audioscape 1176 Rev D, and then that goes into my RME UFX2 interface. And to me, it is such a great pop vocal chain. If you need a really good mic and you want to invest, the Eden, I think, is probably the best that you're going to do for like under $10,000. The next thing is that I actually got to make the Cubase demo project again for Cubase 13. So if you didn't know, a couple years ago, I got to make the project for Cubase 12. This year they hit me up and I got to make the project for Cubase 13. So if you download Cubase 13, you can actually download my demo project from the Steinberg Download Assistant. I use Cubase every single day, so getting to do that just felt really cool, super humbling, and I don't know, I was just really proud to get to do that. And then the last thing that I think was a huge milestone for me business-wise was I got to get connected with a lot of really talented producers this year. I got to actually have conversations and start meeting up with producers that I have just looked up to forever and I've just always been inspired by. So, you know, the opportunities that making this content on this channel and putting out my own music and working for dozens of artists brings is just, it's so beyond me. It's crazy. This was probably the biggest year that I've ever had in terms of like, you know, meeting people and growing in terms of like the connections I've had in the industry. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that brings out in 2024. I'll talk about that in a second when I get into my goals for the next year. But yeah, this year was a big year for me actually, you know, meeting up with other people who have been making moves in the industry for a very long time. And then the last thing that I want to talk about are 5 goals that I have for 2024. These are in no particular order, but the first thing that I want to talk about is I want to get our podcast going again. Miranda and I had a podcast called The Sound Table, and we were being really diligent about releasing regular content. And then we just kind of fell off with it. Life got in the way. We started doing products for NPM, but we really want to get that back. We actually have a whole kind of folder of ideas that we want to record. So if you have any topics you want to see me and Miranda talk about on an audio podcast, let me know down in the comments. They could be business related, audio related, personal related. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see on our podcast, The Sound Table. And if you haven't checked out the episodes that we already have, you can go check those out wherever you actually listen to your podcasts. The next goal is that I want to travel for sessions more in 2024. I mostly work remote and I work at home a lot, but I really want to get out and start collaborating more. I want to build myself a nice, stable mobile rig so I can go up to Nashville for a weekend and write. I can go up to New York City. I can go out to LA a little bit more because I really want to start getting some bigger cuts under my belt. And I know that that typically means traveling out to sessions. So with that said, if you're a producer who's, ever wanted to work with me or collaborate, hit me up in DMs on Instagram because I plan to travel a lot more in 2024. I already have a trip planned to Nashville in the next couple weeks. And then after that, who knows where I'll be going. The next goal that I have, and I think that this is going to be one that I get to cross off sooner than later, is upgrading my studio monitors. If you don't know, I'm on Focal Shape 65s. They are a great monitor, super budget friendly. But I've been doing this now for like 8 years. Make Pop Music has grown, my production business has grown, and I think that I am due for a pretty big upgrade. So if you are interested in seeing what I choose or how I go through the process of picking new monitors, stay tuned because we will have some content coming about that. Like I said, I am going to Nashville, so you'll get to see me test out some speakers in person, and then you'll get to kind of see my real-time process of finding the right monitors that fit me and my situation and my room. So if you want to see that, that will be coming. The next one is a pretty big goal that I have. In 2024, I would love to get a Billboard chart under my belt. I haven't had anything chart, or I haven't had any like platinum releases. I've had a bunch of stuff do multiple millions of streams, but I haven't had anything absolutely blow up. I want to be part of a record, or a couple records actually, that really like get out into the world and do really well. I want to start getting into more mainstream stuff. So who knows what that is going to mean? Who knows what that's going to look like? But it's just, I like to set goals that seem a little bit hard to achieve. So within the next year, I'm trying to get an absolutely insane record under my belt. And then the last goal that I have for 2024 is I just want to have a happy and healthy year. I want to make sure that I stay on top of my health, keep working on my mental health, and ultimately just have a happy, healthy, and productive year. I hope that all of you have the same. I hope that you had a great 2023, and if not, I hope that 2024 is everything that you need it to be and more. Other than that, this is going to be our last content for the year. We will be back next Friday in 2024 with another video. Again, if you want to support us, you can head over to makepopmusic.com, shop our holiday sale from now until December 31st, save 25% off of the entire store. Other than that, let us know what content you want to see in 2024. But that's a wrap for 2023. See you next year. Much love. Peace.